And we are live. Have a good evening. Good evening, friends. Good evening, and welcome to this fine Thursday evening at Little Port Christian Spiritualists. It's a pleasure to see friends and faces, familiar, old, new, and everything in between. Welcome along, and thank you for coming to this, our Thursday service with Mediumship. And of course, this week with a difference, because it began the way spirituality is supposed to begin, with the new healing circle. So well done to Tony and Mandy and everyone who joined in. Thank you for making it a worthwhile venture. Long may it rain, and I look forward to see you all working during the service in the very near future. Of course, to tonight, our divine service, our service of mediumship, is a gathering of spirituality, upliftment, love, laughter, and of course, mediumship. And to achieve this, we are in requirement of a medium. And to welcome this week our medium is not just a medium, but a friend who's been part of the journey that I have been on for 27 years. He still didn't have any hair back at the beginning of it, ironically. But we do like to have a giggle with each other and a good laugh, because he'll give as good as he gets. So please welcome to our Little Port Thursday service, our medium for tonight, John Ennis. And so, to the proceedings, we have notices, we have announcements, a little change to the order of service. And yes, Barry, you've got philosophy too, so tough. But that's, again, another little foible that we have. And I think that the only reason he's got less hair than when he joined is because he sits listening to me every week. But that's another story for another day. Friends, of course, there is the Healing Circle. If anyone is interested in joining it, please see Mandy or Tony. I'm sure that they will accommodate anyone who is interested in providing healing. There is nothing going on per se this week in relation to the Sundays, because the drumming circle's still a couple of weeks off coming back, and the workshop is done for the month. But there is, ironically, a tie-in, because next month's workshop, which is on the second Sunday of the month, is all about healing. So we are really having a bit of a drive on the healing side of it this week, because when we come to the healing as part of the service, we've even got a little bit of musical accompaniment that's been made out of the words that have been in the front of our healing books since spiritualism came to Little Port in 1998. It hasn't changed much over the years. And so we will be giving those at home something to watch other than my empty chair for a change. and also for those sending out their thoughts, something to listen to as well. And so, let's get started by joining together and opening this evening in prayer. As we say, Great Spirit, divine, universal source of all, we thank you for this opportunity. An opportunity to come together as friends, to unite under a banner of love, of friendship, of hope and upliftment, in the desire and drive to witness that proof and truth that life is indeed eternal. As we place this service in your care and keeping this evening, we ask that the veil be lifted and that our loved ones draw close to show us the continuity of life and love ever after. And so, as we begin, I ask for a blessing to be placed on each person here present and the friends and families that they represent. In your name, amen. Well, friends, this is the point where we do talk about what makes up spiritualism, because I don't care what anybody says. You can call it what you like. You can call it an address, you can call it philosophy, you can call the bit that you sleep through, or the bit that you heckle through, depending on who you are. I know quite a few people, myself included, who used to be one of them. But this is the bit where we get to the nitty-gritty of what it is that we actually do. This is the bit where we give a message to everyone, because there is the likelihood that not everyone is going to get a spiritual message through John from a loved one. But this is the point where spirit can endeavour, if we do our best, to touch the hearts, the souls and the minds of those gathered. So what is spiritualism? What is spirituality? It's about, for me at least, accepting that we don't know everything, accepting that we're not always right, and accepting that there is something bigger, greater, and nobler in the universe than we perhaps either considered, thought, or wondered. It is not requiring for special rituals. It is not requiring for special words or words by rote to be given and dictated for us to say. Those belong in your own heart. And we are coming together as a group of many different eclectic ways of working. There are many traditions that involve in spirituality. There's Wicca, there's paganism, there's witchcraft, there is Christianity, there is spiritualism itself. There are all many different paths that you can walk in a spiritual direction. But here's the thing, so long as we respect and be compassionate about that path with each other, we tend to find that we're all going roughly in the same direction. It's just that the tools of the trade, the tools that help us to achieve that spirituality, are very much in the eyes of the beholder and in the hands of the user. For example, if you're a carpenter, you'll have two different sorts of screwdriver. You've heard this one before today. There are two different sorts of screwdriver. There's the standard and there's the Phillips. Now, you can pretty much get away, depending on the size, because I've tried, of using a standard screwdriver in a Phillips screw. It will mess the screwdriver up and it will mess the screw up, but you can get away with it once or twice. But you try using a Phillips screwdriver in a standard screw. It ain't happening. But that's life. We all use different tools for different jobs, but they all end up working in the same way, screwing two bits of wood together. When we think of our spirituality, we should think of it as a construction as well as a journey. A construction of our path, a construction of how we feel about the world and how the world is in our mind view and how we respond and treat the world. And the one thing that you will find at the root, at the core of every single religious philosophy, way of life, path of spirituality is that it begins and ends with healing, compassion, and love. Being nice to each other. My week has been interesting. I've learned that I've been carrying around some baggage. I've been learning that I've been carrying around some things that I didn't even know I had. And letting go of the pain of those moments when I'm confronted with them has been liberating. We must always look out for those moments where our hearts and our gut is saying, and then do something about it. Because one thing that you hear a lot in modern spirituality is karma. Call it what you will, but karma in Sanskrit means action. And one of the most important philosophy, one of the most important principles of modern spiritualism is personal responsibility, taking action. Let that action be love. Let that action be compassion. Let that action be acceptance of ourselves and each other. So thank you for listening, and God bless you all. And I will now have a quick rinse. And so now we will have our reading for the evening, and I will introduce her while she's being wired up. For those that have never been before or haven't been in a while, we have the philosophy and then we have a reading to see if spirit are on the same page. Doesn't always happen, sometimes it's nice, but it's some wonderful words and an addition to the philosophy of our way of life. So please welcome for our reading tonight by Eunice.
Good evening, one and all. What is love? What is hope? We do it every day and night. We may feel it whilst we're here, surrounded by the light. I do not say this lightly, but I say it from the heart. The knack is just to do it whilst we are still apart. I've made some very special friends since we've all come together. Something to cherish in time to come. True friends will last forever. Dark places we may find at times, but out of darkness there is light. We hold out a hand to everyone, so you will be all right. Action says 1,000 words to keep us all on track. A cuddle we will give you, while spirit have your back. Some of you will know this, some of you may doubt, but rest assured, if we can help, you will never go without. I will listen and support you. I will try not to say you're wrong. I may question and not agree with you, but this it makes us strong. For we each have our path of which we follow every day. So together, if we question, the answers will come our way. Do not fear tomorrow, for this will spoil today. Just smile, be happy, enjoy what's here. It is the brightest way.
For those that don't know why I was pulling a funny face then, Eunice hasn't got a clue what I'm going to say, and I haven't got a clue what Eunice is going to read, because it's written in her book and nobody dare touch it. So when it really does tie up like that, it really is wonderful and exciting, and I get excited every time, even after nearly 30 years. So thank you, and your inspirers, Eunice. Wonderful, thank you. And now, my friends, is the time in our evening when we do that action, that healing. Before we, in a few minutes, I think you're going to be about 5 or 10 minutes earlier than normal, mate. We're cracking through it. It's just to warn you. We will hand over now for the healing part of the evening. Please do send your healing thoughts to our friend over in France, Cherry Ann. She really is in need of it. I'm sure she's in there. If not, I know Tony will add her. But there are many other names as well to consider. And so now to guide us through how it's all going to work, please welcome our healing leader, Tony.
Why, thank you. In the next few minutes, if you just put your healing thoughts to the following: Rusty, Linda, Abby, Sylvia, Kathy and David, Christine, Roger and Sheila and Janet, Sherry Ann, Nick's already mentioned. Could you also think of the two Adrians? One who's normally here with us, and one who lives up in Lincolnshire, and we see him not very often, but neither of them are very well at all at the moment, so some healing thoughts for them, please. And a special request from me. Many of you will know I have a cousin who lives in North America. She has a friend called Roger. Roger is in a pretty bad way. So some healing thoughts to Janet's friend Roger, and that's all I can tell you because I don't know any more about him other than he's not very well at all, would help. So in the next few minutes, those of you who would like some healing, please raise a hand. Oh, good. Those of you who are prepared to give somebody some healing, go to where there is a hand raised. Thanks, Lucy. Oh, Mandy, if you can do one. Okay.
And well done, Barry.
Thank you, Barry.
Oh,
thank you, John. Thank you, John. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So just a few words as ever. Great Spirit, would you please send your healing power down through these healers to the recipients who have requested it? And at the same time, would you offer your protection to the healers so that they receive nothing that they don't want to receive? Healers, you have 2 minutes from now. Thank you.
Great Spirit, Father, Mother God, divine source of the universe and great Creator. Here we bring unto you all those listed in all the healing books throughout the land. Be they sick in mind, body, spirit, or soul, that it may please thee to heal them, those we know, those we do not know, those that have no one to ask for them. We ask for them now. Those we know, those we do not know, those that have no one to ask for them. We ask for them now. They sick in mind, body, spirit, or soul, that it may please thee to heal them, those we know, those we do not know, those that have no one to ask for them. We ask for them now.
Thank you, healers. If you can just bring yourselves back. Make your thank yous to whoever you need to make the thank yous to. And I say once again, thank you very much for those of you who asked, because if you didn't, there's an awful lot of reasons why you ought to. Thank you.
I concur. Thank you to Tony for leading the healing. Thank you to the healers, and thank you to everyone for taking part in that. That song, if anyone's interested, is freely available. The words were originally written in the front of the first ever healing book at Littleport. It's been tweaked a little bit over the years, but not a lot. And so it's available for anyone who wants to listen to it online. It's on the Facebook page, and it will be on the website, littleportspiritualists.org, over the weekend, once I can get it up and running. But yes, so feel free to share it around and make use of it. That's what it's there for. It is created by AI, so we're not stepping on any toes other than those that feel annoyed by that. But it's not as good as the real thing, I grant you, but it did a darn fine job. And certainly it saves us getting copyright strikes on the live on YouTube. So it's of benefit that way as well. So thank you all for taking part. And so now get ready. I told you we were going to be a few minutes early, so I'll leave you alone for a minute. Because now we come to the part that I know everyone's been looking forward to. The moment where we ask John to step forward and give us a demonstration. Should John come to you, please answer in a clear voice, yes, no, don't know, because let's face it, we're all blinking nosy. And should the curtains start twitching and the chairs start spinning and sliding all over the floor, you can follow me. I'll be the first one out because that stuff freaks me out and all. So the exits are there and through there. But like I said, you can follow me. It don't happen. But what will hopefully happen, of course, is a lot of love and upliftment and contact with the world of spirit. So please welcome our medium tonight, John Ennis.
Okie dokie. All I say is just sit back and enjoy the evening. If you expect nothing and get something, then that's an added bonus. For those of you who haven't seen me before, don't panic if you think I'm having a heart attack. I probably am, because I've worked with spirit for so many years and I trust them more than I trust myself. So I just let spirit come in and let them get on with it. The only thing I can normally guarantee is that there'll be no swearing. But apart from that, it's no holds barred, let them get on with it. Can you please try and remember what colour clothing you're wearing from the waist up? Because very, very shortly you'll only see colours. And for those of you who haven't seen me before, you'll perhaps notice my eyes are closed most of the time. It's the only way I can concentrate on the pictures. So you may think I'm looking at you when they are open, but I'm not. So, as I say, just sit back and relax and we'll see what happens. Can I go to the lady with the black cardigan on, please? And as I'm with you, there is a gentleman, but I'm bringing the lady forward first. And as the lady comes in, she's about 5'3", 5'4". She's quite a cuddly lady, as I see her. She's telling me she's got a big mouth as well. She says, I'm going to try and be polite. I went, well, you don't have to be. She says, I do. She says, because she'll only tell me off when I get home if I don't. So I says, oh, okay. But she's coming in around you because she's saying, you're having to be polite recently. She says, and that's not you. She says, and you're there, and under your breath, you're going to want to give them it full barrels. But she's saying, you're done the right thing. And she's saying, very, very shortly, everything is going to start paying dividends for you. And she's just saying now that the rest of this year should be about you, not about everybody else. And she says, you've got to start treating yourself more. Oh, okay. And she's also saying as well, will you believe in yourself? Believe in yourself. She says, because you make others think, oh, look at her confident. And she's always laughing and smiling. But inside, you doubt yourself all the time. And she's saying, no, come on, get it out there. She says, if you keep going with your gut instinct, she says, you'll be surprised at what you can achieve. She says, even as a little girl, she says, anytime you started thinking with your head, she says, you always ended up in bother. And she says, you're still the same now. She says, the only trouble is you don't learn from your mistakes. She says, you keep making them and making them. She's also saying as well that you like to be kept busy, but she's saying there's a time and a place for everything. And she's saying you need to sit down more and put your feet up. And she's saying it's all about opportunities for you. And there is a lot of opportunities coming your way this year. Whatever the issues are in the family at the minute, she's saying you've done everything that you can. She's saying to just take a back seat now. It's up to the others to sort it out. But where there's been a gap in the family, that is slowly but surely going to be filled over this year. And she says it's just about you now believing in yourself and trusting in yourself. There's a gentleman who comes in, he's about my height, he's got darkish brown hair. I'm going to say he would normally be a sort of short back and side gentleman, and he was always clean shaven. I don't know if he had problems towards the end of his life, because he's saying sometimes I was clean shaven, he says sometimes I wasn't. I said, oh really? He's going, yeah, and he says, I wouldn't trust the women to give me a shave. I went, why? He says, well, I like my cutthroat razor, he says, and I knew exactly what they do. I went, oh, okay then, we won't go down there. And he's just saying as well that somebody bought him an electric razor. He says, God, he says, it cut my face to pieces. He says, I thought it was supposed to be better for you. But he comes in around you, and he's here to give you a bit of extra strength and a bit of extra support. He's saying he's sorry if he's scared you this last 6 or 7 days, but it has been him that's been following you. And he's saying he's just watching your back for you. And he says he'll always be there and he'll always be around. I don't know who he is, but I've got another gentleman and he's puffing away over my shoulder. And I know it's plain cigarettes as I'm smelling it. And he's just showing me a packet now, and it's Park Drive cigarettes as well. So, but blimey, you've been getting a lot of smells of cigarette smoke around you as well. And that's this other gentleman. So they're all around you, they're all keeping an eye on you, but they all just want you now to start believing in yourself and trust yourself again. So I'm going to leave all that with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the gentleman with the brown jacket on, sir, please? No, that's a lady sat behind you. As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you. And as this lady comes in, she's about 5'6", 5'7", so she comes up to about here on me. She's not an overly big lady. Don't get me wrong, she's not skinny neither. And she's just saying, I've got lumps and bumps where I'm supposed to have lumps and bumps. But with this lady, I do feel with her that she's a very intelligent lady, but she's also a very down-to-earth lady as well. There's no airs and graces with her. What you see is what you get. And she's saying, and boy, I could turn at the top flick of a coin. 1 minute she could be nice as pie, the next minute she would give me a clip round the ear roll. And she's, oh, okay. She says, when I say things, I expect it to be acted on, not people standing answering me back. And she's saying, and look at him now, butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. I'm going, well, what's wrong with that? She says, oh, he was more trouble than he was worth, that one, when he was little. She says, he was always answering back. But she's saying that was you. She says, because you weren't like the others. You were very much you. And she says, even now, as you've gone through life, you're still you. You don't conform to a set schedule. And she says, carry on doing it. She says, the best part about it is, she says, even people who've been around you for many years still don't know if you're being serious or if you're taking the mickey out of them. And she's saying, that's the best way, keep them on the toes. She says, because the only trouble is when people get to know you too well, she's saying that's when they start taking advantage. She's also saying as well that your trust in others is now nearly back to 100%. She says, because your trust was broken in the past. She says, and it's taken you a long time to get your confidence and that trust back again. She's saying, well, everything's going swimmingly for you at the minute. She's saying for you that there's a couple of little obstacles in front of you. She says, but you'll overcome that no problem at all. She says, because they're going to be a lot easier than what you've dealt with in the past. And I'm asking if she'll be more specific. And she's just saying, on your earthly, but also on your spiritual side. So she's saying, it's about you doing what needs to be done. And she does get annoyed with you because she said, how many more times are you going to say, I can't do that? I'm not doing that. Or I don't want to do that. She says, if I was there, she says, I'll give you a clip round the ear, old boy. She says, and I'd make sure that you would do it. But she's got a lot of pride in you as well. And there is a great deal of pride. She'd like you, if it's at all possible, during the summer months, to visit some of your childhood haunts. She says, because that will bring back a lot of good memories for you. yes, she says, some may upset you. She says, but you'll always remember the good rather than the bad. She's bringing a gentleman forward for you now as well. And as this gentleman comes in, he's a bit taller than me, so he's about 5'9", 5'10". He's quite a muscular gentleman as he comes in. I'm being made very aware of his hands, so I know his hands are quite rough. So I know he would have worked with his hands for a living. But don't get me wrong, although he worked with his hands, he had quite an active imagination. But also he had quite a vivid imagination as well, because he could see things that nobody else could. You go, is he going mad, or can he see what we can't see? And it's as if he had a sixth sense, because he always knew what you'd done before you knew yourself. And he says, and he's just saying as well, he's going, he never did learn that one. I went, why? He says, if I caught him once, I caught him half a dozen times smoking. He says, and I can't remember how many times I caught him drinking. I said, well, what's wrong with that? He said he wasn't even 16 at the time. So I'm going, oh, okay. He says, but it was all part of life and it was all part of growing up. He says, but more importantly, he says, the man you are today, you've made yourself. And he's just saying that you took a lot of his negatives and turned them into positives for yourself. And he says, because of that, he says, that's why you keep moving forwards. He says, and that's why people keep coming into your life for your friendship. He says, because you just ooze confidence and strength and support. And he says, that's not something that can be bought. You've either got it in here or you've not. And he says, you've got bundles of it. So he says, he just wants you to keep going and keep moving forward. So from the two of them to you, a great deal of strength and love, and I'll leave all that one with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the lady with the green jacket on, please? As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you. Now, as this lady comes in fact, there's two ladies coming in for you. And the first lady, she comes in, she's about 5'1", 5'2". She's got silvery grey hair. I know that she would have worn glasses as well. And she's just saying, that's where if I can remember where I put them, dear. I went, why, were you a bit forgetful? She says, no. She says, I'd had them years. She says, but I could never get used to having them. And she's coming in around you because she's saying, you need to slow down a bit. She says, you're missing so many opportunities. She says, you keep wanting to change your lifestyle. You want to change your working environment. She's saying, the opportunities are all there for you. She says, you've just got to go for it. The trouble is, you've got to come out of your comfort zone. And also, you like to be in control. The trouble is, you're going to come out of your comfort zone and you're not going to be in control. You're going to have to trust others. But she's saying, the more you come out, the more you will move forward. And she says, there are so many opportunities out there for you. And she just wants you to be yourself. She says, for so long, okay. She's saying it's only over the last 6 months or so that you've started truly being yourself. She says, because before you used to hide behind a mask. And she's saying, but you're letting you be you again. And she says, because of that, she says, more positive things are happening to you now than negative. And she says, the more you can keep yourself at the front of the queue, she says, the more it's going to keep happening for you. The second lady who comes in is a little bit taller than the first lady, and she's not as big. She's got very long hands and fingers. She's got, her hair is between the bottom of her ears and her shoulders, and it's quite wavy as well. And I want to say it's quite thick. Although she does tell me in the last 2 or 3 years her hair did go a little bit thin on the top in places. Don't have to. Okay. She's just saying, I looked in the mirror, she says, and I could see a little bit of a tash forming as well. I went, really? She says, yeah. She says, but the ones on my chin I used to keep pulling out. And I've got to say with this lady, as serious and as strict as she could be, she was quite funny at the same time. And she says, they like to see you smiling, Spirit. This is because you don't smile enough. And they said, that twinkle is slowly but surely coming back into your eyes. She says, and that's not been there for a long time. So she says, you've got to do what is right for yourself. She's saying, stop looking over your shoulders. You've learnt the lessons, you can't change them. So you should be looking forward and taking a bit more control. But you do need to stay at the front of the pack, not in the middle, like you normally do. Yes, she's saying you will come out of your comfort zone, but the only person who can do that is you. Nobody else can do it. She said, and the quicker you bring about these changes, she says, the quicker they can happen for you. And she says, it's all about being positive. She's just saying as well that if you want the bigger property, you've got to put yourself out there first. So she says, but you can achieve whatever you want to achieve, and you can achieve whatever you put your mind to as well. There is a gentleman coming in for you. He's, well, blimey. He's about my height. I'm going to say his hair is quite darkish, and as he comes closer, his skin is slightly tanned. So I know he would have worked outside for a living. And I've got to say with this gentleman, he's a bit rough and ready around the edges, and he doesn't like getting dressed up. He likes to be comfortable, he's telling me. And I can see him with a pair of slippers on. And I have got a lot of breathing problems with this gentleman as well, as he's coming in closer. And with this gentleman, he always tried to be self-sufficient, but he always tried to make sure that others in the family never went without, even if it meant he had to go without. And he tried everything. I know in his last 18 months, 2 years down here, it was a struggle for him, but he said he kept going for as long as he could do. He's got a lot of pride in you and a lot of love for you as well. He's giving you a bar of Cadbury's Dairy Milk chocolate. Yeah, okay, right. He says he's surprised the ladies never said nothing to you. He said, and he's not here to tell you off, but he's saying, can you eat more green vegetables when you're with your meals, please? He says, because you'll start to feel a lot better in yourself. So I'm going to, from all of them to you, a lot of love and strength, and I'll leave all that with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the lady with the check jacket on right at the back, please? As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you. And as this lady comes in, she's a little bit shorter than me. So she's about 5'6", 5'7". She's very weird for a lady. She's telling me she's stockily built. And she's a very strong lady. As I see her hands are very red. So I know she would have done everything with her hands. So cooking, cleaning, washing the clothes, everything else was done by hand with this lady. And she's just saying, oh, you lot don't know you're born, do you? She says, if I wanted hot water to wash up with, she says, it used to take me an hour to boil the kettle or the saucepan. She says, that's if we had the fire going and it was hot enough. But with this lady, she's just saying she never asked for anything, but she always went out of her way to make sure the children were all right. She's saying, yes, she understands that you couldn't have whatever was fashionable at the time. She says, but it was a case of making do. She says, but your clothes were always clean. She says, and your bellies were always full. She says, and it wasn't until later in life that you actually started getting what you wanted for your birthdays and what you wanted for Christmas. Because earlier you had to make do. And she's saying, around you, she says, up to about 3 or 4 years ago, you were having to make do. But she's saying, things are getting better for you, and they're going to continue getting better for you. And she says, the changes you want to bring about, she says, will happen this year. She says, but it's only you who can set the ball rolling. And she says, once you do, you'll be surprised at what you can achieve. I'm bringing a gentleman in for you as well. And as this gentleman comes in, my mouth's gone very dry, my throat has got very sore. So I know I've got a lot of breathing problems. I'm going to say I passed in a hospital type environment, and I don't know what it is about my throat. I don't know if he's got like a cancer or if it's because he had tubes down his throat. But I know I've got a very sore throat with him. And I've got to say, with this gentleman, he tried to be strong right till the end. And he said he fought and he fought and he fought. But in the end, he says it was just too much for him. And he says he had to give in. But he says he doesn't want people to remember him that way. He says he wants people to remember him at Christmas, at birthdays. He said, because he says that's who the real him was. And he says, you've got lots of opportunities this year, and you've got lots of opportunities next year. So he says, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And he says, you're not on your own. We're always here for you, and we'll always be there for you. There's another lady coming in quickly. She's about 5'3", 5'4". She's quite a slim lady. I do feel a little bit unsteady on my feet with her. She's a little bit of a know-it-all, and she's going, what's all this neighbourhood watch like? I says, why? She says, all you needed was somebody like me. She says, they never caught my curtains twitching. I went, why? She says, I stood on the front doorstep and I used to watch everything that was going on. But she was a lady who was very much family, and family were very important to her. And nobody was allowed to tell her children off or anybody in the family. And she says, you're very family orientated, but she's making me very aware that she's getting very annoyed at the minute because you're not getting the support from the family that you should have been. But she's saying, it's all about you now. Look into the future. She says, and the future for you is a positive future. So from all of them in spirit to you, a lot of love and strength, and I'll leave all that with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the lady with the grey top on, please? As I'm with you, I've got two ladies coming in for you. Now, the first lady, as she comes in, she's a tall lady. I'm going to say about 5'7", maybe 5'8". So she's very similar in height to me. She's quite stockily built as well, and she wears a full-length apron, which she's got a round neck. I never know with ladies what it is. I don't know if it's a crimpline jumper or a nylon jumper, but it's a round one, and she wears a pinafore dress on top of that as well. And she says, I don't care if the sun's shining, it's chucking it down with rain or the 6 inches of snow. If I've got to go out, I've got my slippers on. I went, what's up with your shoes? She says, when you've got feet like mine, dear, she says, you don't wear shoes. She says, the trouble is, she says, why is it everybody gets married or dies in the winter? She says, because every time I had to go to a funeral or a wedding, it was always chucking it down. So she says, I always got wet feet. I says, why? She says, because the family wouldn't let me wear my slippers. They made me put my sandals on. So I says, oh, okay. But this lady's coming in and she just wants to wrap her arms around you. And she's saying, okay, the choices and decisions that you've made this year already, she says, go for it. And she says, stick to your principles. Don't get blown off course. And she says, if people need putting in the place, then you've got to put them in the place. So she says, but don't worry about it. And she's also saying as well that she needs to thank you also, because she's saying she didn't expect you to be there all the time for her, but she's saying you were. But she's just so thankful that you were. And she does come through with so much love and so much strength. She's just saying, yes, we had our ups and downs. She says, but in the end, we always got there. Because she's just saying she was a bit cantankerous and moody. And she liked everything doing her way. And she's saying, as much as you don't want to, she says, you're more like me than you realise. And she's saying, just stick to your principles, girl. She says, don't let anybody blow you off course. She says, because when you get blown off course, she says, that's when all the problems start. She says, but she's just saying, forget what's happened in the last 2 years. Look at what's going to happen in the next 2 years. And she says, you're in control. So you can have it as quick or as slowly as you want. She says, but she knows that you will make the right choice. This second lady who comes in, okay. I'm going to say with this lady, her hair is naturally curly, but all the time she has her hair in rollers and she wears a hairnet all the time. I says, do you ever take it off? She says, well, occasionally, if I remember. I says, what do you mean? She says, oh, I've been known to go months without taking my rollers out there. She says, I just spray water over it, she says, and keep them going. But I do feel with this lady, right up until the very end, she was fiercely independent. And she did not like to be told what to do. And so much so that she even left instructions about what she wanted to happen when she passed away. And she says, thankfully, most of it was done. She says, but what wasn't done, she says, I'll be back to haunt them. But she's just laughing her head off now. So I know she's a bit of a character, this lady. She says, if you want to believe that, she says, it's up to you. She says, but I've sown the seed, so whether you doubt yourself or not, she says, that's up to you. But no, this lady, as I say, she does come with a lot of love and a lot of support for you. She's on about your lower back and your hip going to the left. And she's saying, it's not serious, but keep an eye on it. And if it does start to worry you, then by all means, speak to somebody about it. She says, because the longer you leave it, the worse it'll get. She says, and you're just like me. You don't like doctors. You don't like hospitals. She says, but putting it off will mean you've got to go into hospital. But it's not, at this moment in time, it's not serious. But if it starts to play on your mind or upset you, she says, then by all means, get it sorted out. They're bringing a gentleman in for you as well now. And as this gentleman comes in, he's quite stockily built. He's got darkish hair, and he would have had a good head of hair up until his later years, because I can just see him thinning out ever so slightly on the top. I'm not saying it's him, it could be, but I am getting connections to the British Army, and I'm also being shown, I'm being shown 6 medals as a minimum. There may be more. And I'm also seeing a lot of certificates as well. So, say that again. Oh, okay, he's on about mentioning dispatches. But I've got to say with this gentleman, you never knew if he was telling you the truth or just making it up. Because I think it was said more than once, you ought to be on Jack and Ori, you know, because you tell such good stories that everybody believes them. And he says he's still telling stories now. And so I just said to him, well, why are you telling stories? He says, it's the only way I get a bit of peace and quiet up here. He says, it's the only time they sit down and listen to me is when I'm telling them a story. But he's just saying, he's also said that he sees what you've been up to the last couple of weeks. And he says, yes, that's fine. He's saying either your neighbours or the younger generation, let them help with your gardening. He says, because you've got so many ideas. He says, but the trouble is with you, you go headlong straight into it. He says, and you should be pacing yourself. He says, you've already got a bad back and hip. He says, so give yourself 48 hours. He says, and you'll be absolutely shattered and you won't be able to move for a fortnight. So he's saying, let the youngsters or your neighbours help you. He says, you can sit in the deck chair drinking as many cups of tea as you want. He says, and just crack the whip. I want that there, not there. And that's got to go there. That's got to go there. It's got to be that colour in here and that colour in there. So he's saying, it'll work. But he's also saying for the younger generation, they never know what to get you. So if you say, can you come over a weekend or for a few days and help with the gardening or decorating, then they'll do it willingly for you. So from them to you, a lot of strength and a lot of love, and I'll leave all that with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the gentleman with the purple top on, sir, please? As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you, and as this lady comes in, she's about 5'5", 5'6". I want to say she's a very strong character, and she says, I don't care how big he is. She says, he's still not too big to go over my knee, you know. And I'm going, really? She's going, yeah. She says, but he's a law unto himself, that one. She says, I watched him growing up and he's always been a law unto himself. But she's saying, you're very strong-willed. And she's saying, you know what you want. And she's saying, she would like you now to take a step back a minute and have a look at what's going on around you. And especially in your working environment, if you're working. Because she's saying there's lots of changes going on. But she's saying you're a lot better than what you're doing at the moment. And she said, it's time for you to start moving up that ladder and start making more choices and more decisions. She says, because she sees you at times and you go, what the heck are we doing this for? We should be doing it this way. We should do it that way. And she says, now's the time for you to make that move. And she says, the quicker you make that move, the better it will be for you. I don't know if you use a van for work, but I do need to give you a newer van. But I'm also saying as well, towards August, September time, I want to give you a newer car as well. But this is out of necessity, not need. Oh, okay. And she says, when you get the newer car, don't put no baked bean exhaust pipes on it. She says, just an ordinary car. She says, it does 0 to 70 like everybody else does. She says, you don't have to go from 0 to 60 as fast as you can, you know. But she's saying there is a lot of change going on around you. She's also saying as well, sir, that, and I'm not here to embarrass you, and this lady's not here to embarrass you, but you have got a spiritual connection. You may not know it at the moment, but you have got a spiritual connection. And don't doubt what you're hearing and what you're seeing. And she's just telling me that you've been getting confused recently because you seem to be getting a lot of dreams, but you can only remember little bits of it. Don't worry about them. And they're not negative dreams, they're positive dreams. They're trying to point you in a new direction. There's a gentleman who comes in for you as well now. And as this gentleman comes in, he's a bit taller than me. He's quite stockily built as I see him. He's a little bit of a law unto himself. I know with this gentleman, he would have smoked quite heavily because I can see his fingers are brown and quite nicotine stained. And he's coming in and he's just saying, there's a time and a place to be yourself, and there's a time and a place to be the responsible one. So he says, you need to be the responsible one more than the clown. He says, he knows you like being a clown. He says, but there's a time and a place for everything. But he says, he knows that you'll succeed. He's also saying as well that on the outside, you two may be similar, but on the inside, you're completely different. You're a lot more understanding and you're a lot more caring than this other gentleman is. But he says, apart from that, he says, we're good together and we've always been good together. But he wants you now to start pushing forward. He says, he knows you stand out in a crowd, but he wants you to stand out in the crowd for the right reasons. And he says, you're switched on up here, so he says, now's the time for you to start using it. He said, and it's all about being positive. The more positive you can be, the better it'll be for you. So from him to you, sir, I'm going to leave a lot of strength, but from the lady, a lot of love as well. and I've just got to remind you about a homemade go-kart and crashing into a lamppost. And I'm like, right, is there anything else? They're saying that's the only one they can bring up about the past because you were a law unto yourself as a 10-year-old. So I'm going to leave all that with you, sir. So thank you very much. Can I go to the lady? Is it a green jacket or a white blouse, jumper? Yeah. As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you. And now, as this lady comes in, oh, God, blimey, she ain't half annoyed with you, you know. She's going, look at her hair. I says, what's wrong with that? She says, that's the colour I wanted to go. She says, and it didn't happen. She says, I even tried pulling my hair out because they said more grey had come back. She says, and they didn't. But this lady's coming in and she just wants to wrap her arms around you. And she just wants to give you a big cuddle. And she's saying, life hasn't been easy for you, but you've made the best of it. And she says, you go through life doing what is right for you, but also what is right for others. And she's saying, you've still got that inner strength. She says, and physically, she says, you're a lot fitter than some of the youngsters, you know. She says, they just can't keep up with you at times. And she's saying, physically and mentally, you're a very, very strong lady. And she says, you'll continue to be a strong lady. She's also saying to me as well that you installed all the family principles. She's saying, but when you look down, you go, oh, I must have gone wrong here somewhere. She's going, no. She says, they've all got your principles. They just adapt them to suit themselves. And they do things differently. But you are the integral part in that machine that they call family. And everything seems to revolve around you. And everybody wants a little piece of you all the time. And she's saying, you're so well respected, but you're equally as loved as well. And you always will be. She's bringing a gentleman in for you now. And as this gentleman comes in, he just wants to put his arms around you and give you a cuddle. I've got to give you from him. And he's saying, I've not done nothing wrong, but he wants me to give you a dozen red roses. And I says, really? And he says, I've counted them 3 times to make sure there's a dozen. I went, oh, okay. He says, and I've not nicked them neither. He says, I went to the shop and I bought them. He says, and that's why I said, I don't want you moaning at me wasting my money. He says, money up here grows on trees. He says, you don't have to worry about it. And he is coming through with a lot of love. He says, I don't half miss your roast potatoes. I'm going, what? He says, oh, he says, she's the only one who can cook the roast potatoes the way I like them. He says, and I like my roast beef roasted. He says, not still alive on the plate. He says, and I like it nice and crispy on the outside as well. Okay. Right. He's making me very aware that you've got a sweet tooth. Show me that again. Okay. I've got a bar of Turkish Delight for you. And I've got a bar of Fry's chocolate cream. But he says, sometimes you like your peppermint. So he says, I'll give you a peppermint one as well. He's just saying, thank you for being the one that was there holding his hand. And he says, I did hear everything that was said, and I did hear everything that was whispered. And he says, and yes, I love you to bits, girl. He says, and I'll be waiting for you when the time's right. He says, but the time's not right now. He says, you've still got a lot of living to do. He says, and you need to guide them youngsters. He says, and as long as you keep guiding them, he says, they're not going to go wrong. There's another lady who quickly wants to be remembered to you. And as this lady comes in, I thought it was a sister, but I'm feeling an auntie, but it could be a sister because she's just saying we used to bounce off each other. She says, a lot of the time we were very similar, She says, but there again, she says, we did have our fallings out like sisters did. She says, but we always made amends in the end. She's just saying that you used to be very good with words. So I don't know if you used to write poetry or if you used to write like sonnets or verses, but she said, I'd love to see you do that again, you know. And she says, if you do, she says, I'll be by your side all the way. Right, I hope you can remember this. She wants me to give to you a lemon-coloured dress with a big bow on it. And it's not a shop-bought one, it's one that somebody's made. And as she showed me the pictures, you look about 9 or 10 years of age. So whether it was a wedding, a christening, or a birthday party. But she's saying they didn't stay lemon for very long. She says, because we were always getting into trouble, us two. So yes, I'm going to leave all that love, all that strength and all that support from everybody in spirit and say thank you very much. Can I go to the lady with the dark top on, please? As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you. Now, as this lady comes in, please take this the right way. Do you remember the lady in ABBA with the dark hair? I want to say she looks like her, and she's that sort of build. And she's saying, people would say, look at her. She says, but I was nothing special. She says, I was just me. And she says, if anybody was to look at anybody else, she's saying they should be looking at you. They're saying, because from a very early age, you were always a pretty little girl. And she's saying, we did wonder about you, she says, because even when you were 13, 14, and possibly just going into 15, she said, others seem to take advantage of you. She says, because you were a very kind and caring person, where everybody else just seemed to be out for themselves. She says, but when you got to 15 and a half, pushing 16, you suddenly went, enough's enough. She says, and you got very strong. And she says, because you've got very strong, she says, it's helped you succeed in life. And she says, she wants you to keep moving forwards. She says, because you're a lady that thrives on new opportunities. And she says, there's plenty of new opportunities coming your way this year and next year. On the career side, if you run your own business, it will be time to expand. If you're thinking about running your own business, work everything out on the worst scenario. And if you could survive on it, fine. If you're working for somebody else, don't say anything, just keep your eyes and ears open, because you will hear and you will know when the right time is to strike. And the more you do that, the better it will be for you. She's also telling me as well, and like I said to the gentleman, I'm not here to take the mickey out of you, but you had invisible friends when you were growing up. But those invisible friends were invisible to everybody else by you, because you could see them. And I want to say that you had a name for one girl in particular. The thing is, they're starting to come back around you again. But they're not little girls, because they've grown up like you have. And that connection is going to get stronger and stronger, because your earthly life is quite settled at the minute. But don't get me wrong, just because it's settled doesn't mean to say you can't strive for something new. But you're more settled in your mind, but more importantly, you're more settled in your heart. Because as you look downwards and sideways, family all seem to be moving in the right direction now, not the wrong direction. And this lady's saying that's because of you. She says, you don't realise what an influence you have on so many people. And she says, you have a lot of influence on non-family members as well. I don't want to age you, and I don't want to give you too many children, but I don't know if you've got a grandson or not yet. But if you have got a grandson, I want to go to the eldest one. And I'm going to say you and him are so much alike, it is unbelievable. and the bond between you two is going to get stronger and stronger, and that will continue for many, many more years to come. And it's just about you achieving everything that you can achieve. There's another lady who's coming in very quickly for you. She's about my height. She would have been average build, but I'm seeing her and she's lost quite a lot of weight. And she's making me very aware that she passed the spirit a lot earlier than she should have done. So I'm looking mid to late 30s, possibly into early 40s. I don't feel it's family. I feel it's more of a friend. And she's coming around you because she's just saying, when you think of her, it brings a sparkle into her life up there. And she says, of all the people she knew, she says, you were always the one that spoke the truth. And you were the one that was always honest. And she just wants to thank you for that. And she says it's very special to have somebody like you who will say it as it is and not dress it up. She says, because sometimes we just need to know what's actually going on. There's a gentleman who comes in, and as this gentleman comes in, I'm going to say with this gentleman, I've got issues around the heart area with him. It could have been a stroke or it could have been a heart attack. It didn't actually take him to spirit, but it was a big contributor towards it. And this gentleman, I'm going to say, is very, very clever, but he was also very clever with his hands, because he could make anything from anything if he just had the thought process. The trouble is with this gentleman, he got distracted very easily. So he had a lot of things on the go, but never quite completed everything. But when he did complete it, everybody marvelled at it. And he's saying for you, he's just saying, sometimes you have to let the men do what they need to do. He says, you can't be the chief cook, the bottle washer, and the DIY expert all the time, you know. He says, sometimes you've got to let others have a go at it. And he's also saying as well that you are very supportive of all the family. And he's just saying that you're actually the head of the family. He says, you may not be the oldest, he says, but everybody respects you. So they all come to you with the problems or their ideas. He's also making me very aware of a big family gathering towards the end of the summer. So it's either just before the last bank holiday in August or else just that first week in September. And he's saying, the cameras on your phones are good. He says, but take an ordinary camera with you. He says, because you will see people in the photos and you will know who they are. But you will also know that they're physically not down here, they're up there. And he says, you'll be able to explain to the family what's going on. So from all of them to you, a lot of strength, a lot of love, and I'll leave all that one with you. I don't know who he is, hang on. A gentleman who would have smoked quite a lot. I'm going to say, I don't know if he did both the forces, because 1 minute I got the Navy, but then I got aeroplanes. But he's saying, if you want to have the tattoo done, have it done. He says, it doesn't matter what other people say or think. So now I will leave all that with you and say thank you very much.
10 minutes.
Okie dokie. Shouldn't have said that. No, I'm with you. Right, can I go to the lady with the cat on the shoulders? I can't say it's fur, and I can't remember the posh word for it, apart from false fur.
Faux.
Who?
Faux.
I'm glad you said that. I ain't got as many teeth as you. Everyone thinks I'm swearing. Right, as I'm with you, I have got a lady coming in for you. As this lady comes in, she's coming in with a lot of strength for you. Which, more importantly, she's saying, God, about time she's calmed down at last. I'm going, why? She says, she says she's been that stressed out and strung up. She says, for the last 6 or 7 months, She says, but it's as if last week you just took a deep breath. I went, no, I'm not having it anymore. And suddenly everything's going your way. And she's saying, and you're sat there, aren't you? And you say every night when you go to bed, I suppose the bad bit got to come tomorrow. And then tomorrow night when you go to bed, you say, well, that's another good day. I bet the bad bit's coming tomorrow. No, it's not. You've had all your bad bits. It's all about you now looking forward, planning for the future. I don't want to spend your money, but they're saying you need to book that holiday. They're also saying as well, you need to be in contact with a family member. Not through, it's not been a fallout, it's just life's got in the way. And I want to say it's a lady rather than a man, which she's saying she'd like to see you make contact. And she's saying, boy, she says, I know it'll go well. She says, and you'll have her under your feet and you'll be under her feet. But it will do both of you power of good. Because as I don't want to say depressed, as down as you have been, this other lady's as bad. So it's not a case of handing out the olive branch. It's just a case of saying, I'm so sorry, but life just got in the way. But I've got half an hour. Do you want to chat? And just see where it takes you. And very quick, and make sure you're using the phone that everything's free on. Because that half hour may end up as an hour and a half. But it's what both of you will need at that time. But there'll be a lot of plans made. There'll be a lot of visits sorted out. And that's what it's all about. Because family to you is very, very important. And your family this year is going to get bigger and bigger around you. And there's going to be a lot of surprises as well. Now, I don't know if you've got loads of nieces and nephews that you've not seen or you've only ever sort of heard about, and the others are all sort of as tall as you are. So it's all about rekindling all that and starting all that again. She's also saying for you as well, don't get stressed out over work. And she's saying, you can bring about the change. She says, but it's only you that can bring about those changes. She says, and stop panicking about qualifications and exams. She says, because if you do need them, she says, you'll pass them because it's your choice. So she says, you can do anything that you want to do. There's another lady who comes in. She's only about 5 foot, maybe 5'1". She has got greyish hair. Her hair is very thin as I'm seeing her, but I know her hair would have been quite thick. There is photographs of her, and I've got to say when she was younger, her hair was nearly down to her waist at times, because you'd always see her with her hair plaited. And she's just around you, and she's saying, I was a busybody when I was down there. She says, and I'm a busybody up here. And she said, it's not about putting your nose into other people's business. She says, but you just like to know what's going on around you. And she says, there's nothing wrong with that. She says, but just remember, always be true to yourself and never try to be something that you're not. There is a gentleman who comes in. As this gentleman comes in, I've got a lot of discomfort in my stomach. So I'm going to say like a cancer condition, if not that it's ulcers that have burst or whatever. But this gentleman comes in, he's just coming in, he's just wrapping his arms around you. And he does come with a lot of love. And he's just saying, I'm sorry I wasn't always there for you. He says, but I'm trying to make amends now. And he's been around you, I'm going to say, for the last 3 or 4 months. And he'll continue to be there and he'll continue to give you that support. So from all of them to you, a lot of love and strength, and I'll leave all that one with you. Can I go to the lady with the red top? As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you, and the first lady, as she comes in, I'm going to be generous and say she's 5 foot. She may not be, I'm just saying she's 5 foot. I'm being generous. Because you're sitting down and she's only just a bit taller than you are. And she comes in with a lot of love for you. She's just saying that as a 7, 8-year-old, and you were yourself. You never conformed, and you weren't a girly at all. You were more a boy than you were a girl, and they thought, well, she'll grow out of it. And suddenly at 15, 16, you're still a boy girl, not a girly girl. She says, but then she got to 17 and a half and everything changed. I went, why is that? She says, she suddenly realised the difference between boys and girls. I went, right. She says, there was no stopping her. But she says, you've always been a law unto yourself. But she says, you've always given your friends your support, morally and physically. But she's saying, you've always been a big supporter of family as well. So going sideways, but also your family going downwards. She says, and very unusual, because you said you would never do it. You've given them a lot of freedom. And that lot of freedom is paying dividends now, because there's more respect from you for what you gave them than you could ever have expected. And I know they don't say it enough, but they do love you to bits. And they'll never ask for your approval of anything. They'll say, oh, we've done this, or we've bought this. And as they say it, they look at your eyes and they go, oh, we're in trouble again, but she's not going to say nothing. So they do value your opinions on everything. But she's saying, don't ever change. Carry on being you. She says, your earthly life is quite fulfilled at the moment. She said, but there is some new opportunities, and these are coming up in the next 4 or 5 weeks. She says, but don't take them all. She says, 1 or 2, but not everything. She says, because you will just keep saying, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. She says, no. So you need to carry a notebook or a diary around with you and keep it up to date. Because there's nothing worse than when you get home and you get your diary out your bag and you look at the proper diary and go, oh no, I've double booked because I haven't written that in the book. So it's your time management needs sorting out this year, because you are going to have a lot going on. The other lady who comes in is about 5'3", 5'4". She's throwing flour around all over the place. So I know she was very good in the kitchen, and she made all her own pies and pastries. And she's saying, it's as if she had to have handcuffs and chain you to the table in the kitchen to try and get you to cook and bake. And I said, well, did you succeed? She says, you've got to be joking. I went, why? She says, she was just like the boys. It went in one ear and out the other. She says, I gave up in the end. She said, but you can cook and you can look after yourself. And you have passed on some family recipes. But she's saying, if you want something else to do, start writing these recipes down. She says, because the younger generation have got so much going on, they can never remember it. And besides which, you talk too fast, so they can't put it in the phones. So they're saying, if you write things down, everything will be fine. A gentleman who's coming in, he's putting his arms around you. I've got a lot of breathing problems with this gentleman, but I'm going to say I've got like prostate cancer, or it started in the prostate, but spread quite quickly. He didn't like doctors and he didn't like hospitals, so he wouldn't go. But he knew he wasn't right. When he did find out, he didn't have a lot of time. He says he tried to tie up as many loose ends as he could, but he didn't have time to get everything done. And he's saying, I didn't want the family falling out and arguments. He says, but unfortunately it did happen, but not as bad as he thought it was going to be, because he said it could have been a lot worse. But he's coming in with so much strength. He wants you to trust your instinct and go with your gut feeling. He says, because the more you go with your gut feeling, the better it'll be. I don't know what the relationship is with you and Nick, but they're saying you need to listen to him more instead of letting it go in one ear and out the other. They said, because he can see what you've got but you're at times wrapped up in so many other things you can't see it for yourself. You need to listen to what he's saying. He will guide you along. He's saying it's a slippery path. I says it ain't. He says you ain't seen what he gets up to. He says it's a slippery path. So I said, oh, okay. So if you listen to what he's saying, wherever on your spiritual side, wherever you're aiming at, you'll get there a lot quicker. Oh God, you're one of them. Whatever she says she wants to do, put it in the bin.
Oh, we've already dealt with that. That's fine.
So whatever you want to do, it's not going to happen. You do what he tells you to do. Right? So I'm going to leave all that love and strength with you and say thank you very much. Before I get into trouble and ruin 25, 30 years of friendship, I'm going to say thank you all very much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you all. Because the very first time Nick chaired for me, he said 10 minutes, and half an hour later he had to drag me off. And he got a right ear bending. And he's never let me live it down since. So thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure to be with you all. I hope you enjoyed the evening. Please, if you did, you don't have to have enjoyed me, but enjoyed the evening. Keep coming back, supporting Nick and his team, because it takes a lot of effort to get these doors open every week for you. So thank you all for your time, patience, and I'll leave you in Nick's capable hands.
Thank you, John. And yes, I will remind you of the second time that you came to church and I chaired for you, when I said just one more instead of 10 minutes, and you took umbrage to that. So he said, well, how much time have I got then? And I said, well, about 15 minutes. And he did 15 messages just to spite me. So now I make sure I say how much time there is rather than any prediction as to how much space you're going to fill. But thank you, John, for a truly uplifting evening. Ladies and gentlemen, John Ennis. I have been feverishly making notes because I don't want to miss this. Firstly, I would like to say hello to our user of Twitch. It's not well advertised, but we do stream onto Facebook and YouTube, but we also stream on Twitch, and somebody's been watching on Twitch, so I'm a little bit geeky and a little bit excited, and I don't mind admitting. Our medium for next week is the lovely Gina Sivtins, so I do look forward to welcome you all to see her. I don't know whether we'll find out if Nicola's coming with her, because occasionally they do a double up. But very much looking forward to that. And I do promise to get everything that I've promised to get, like the healing song and any other information you need on the website, which is, again, for those that do not know, and I am just being really, really technical and cheeky now, it's now showing on the Facebook stream and the YouTube stream. It is Littleport Spiritualists, that's plural, littleportspiritualists.org. It's got a calendar of the next 3 months worth of mediums. There's a bit of history that's continually being added to and growing as I learn new things of the Littleport journey. I might have been here at the beginning of it, but I did have 5 years out, so wandering the platform with people like yourself. So I'm adding as I learn about things. There's about mediumship, and there's also lots of links about what we get up to here in Littleport, including a lovely page about the Shamanic Drum Healing Circle, which are not meeting in April because the third Sunday of the month lands on Easter Sunday, and Eunice wants her egg. So the only thing she'll be banging that week is an egg on a table to break it open rather than a drum. But they are back on the third Sunday of May. We are, of course, back for our workshops in April, which is the second Sunday, the week before Easter. And as I said, it is about healing. I have had a word, one of our regular now serving mediums, and used to be when he wasn't so busy, regular attender of the congregation, the lovely Stephen Rayner. Last few weeks, he's been showing us some wonderful stuff on the internet. And I've got to tell you, last week, he showed us what I can only describe as the hugest, biggest tuning fork I have ever seen. Be careful, you. Watch it. I knew somebody had to go there, and for a change, it wasn't me. But he got it's chunky, it's massive, and he has kind of intimated that he will bring it to workshop next time as well. So I actually think he might even bring one of his gongs as well. So we'll have a bit of a wild time. So yes, that's what the workshop is about in April. I think that's all the notes. Have I got everything? I keep losing my sticky pad. Yes, one last thing. For anyone who wants to bring friends, invite friends, anyone who's at home who wants to come here, or anyone who's usually at home, nice to see you, we now use what 3 words to help you find us. It's a lot easier than postcodes and addresses, but it's also a little bit easier to remember and a lot more fun. So if you do have the app What 3 Words and want to find us, our 3 words to find Littleport Village Hall, I kid you not: snowy sofas straddled. Snowy sofas straddled. So if anyone stands out the front and looks a little bit chilly, you know why, and it's nothing to do with spirit. But yeah, if you want to find us and come and visit us, just what 3 words? It's snowy sofas straddled, and you will find a 3-metre square location, which is right out the front of that hall. Again, one final thank you to a very dear friend of this church, John Ennis. We are going to say goodnight to everyone at home after our closing prayer, and then we are going to get our raffle tickets ready because it will be prize winning time. And I am also informed that as well as tea and coffee and biscuits, there is also ham sandwiches and there is cucumber sandwiches. So we'll have a bit of a feast and a gather together. But friends, let's join together and close this evening very briefly in prayer. As we say, Great Spirit, Divine Universal Source, we thank you. We thank you for our time together, for our contact with those that we thought we had lost, but have reached out and shown that they are here. And we thank you for our time together. We thank you for the opportunity to send out healing to all in need. And we ask that those in need have the courage, the strength, and wisdom to seek out and reach help from whatever source may be required. We also ask that the world in which we live, Great Spirit, we know that there are times of struggle and strife all around us, but give us the courage and strength to keep moving forward in life with confidence and hope, for we know that those 2 things are the things that carry us forward the most. And we ask for the minds of those who are in charge with authority over others, that their minds, their hearts, and their attitudes be soothed with healing, love, and light. And so, as we go out of this place, let us take with us that light and love of friendship that we have shared together. And I ask for a blessing to be placed on each person here present, and state as ever that until we meet again, all will be in love, truth, and light. Amen.
Amen.
Well, friends, to everyone at home, thank you for joining us, especially whoever it is on Twitch, say hello. But from all of us here, wait for it, to everyone out there, after 3, 1, 2, 3.
Good night.